Hello and welcome to the Knitting Traditions Podcast. My name is Inga and this is my little corner on the internet where I talk about my knitting. I hope that you are well. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. And if you're new here, you're very welcome to join in for a little nitty chat. I'm going to be talking about what I'm wearing, knits that I have finished since last time, which is 3 garments and 3 accessories. And then I'm gonna take you through some new whips and some older whips and just have a crafty good time. So grab yourself something to get cozy if it's a beverage or you're knitting, and let's get started. Today, it's October and I am embracing the fall cozies again. I am wearing my Billie pullover, which is a pattern by Sandra Mini. And I knit this one 2 or 3 years ago when it came out in macausland 2-ply. It's a Canadian yarn, very rustic, very beautiful heathered tones. It has filled quite a bit, but I also wear this a lot. It's probably one of my more worn garments, and it's really holding up for the amount of wear that it gets, and the pills are easy to remove. It's just under the arm, which gets the most friction, and because of all the texture in the garment and the heather colorway, it doesn't really show that well unless I point it out. I do think that I went down a size for this pattern because the yarn that I used was slightly thicker than the recommended. I think it recommended Cascade 220, and I think my gauge was slightly off, so I went down a size to compensate for that. And I really want to make one of Sandra Mini's cardigans. I was thinking about the Billie cardigan, but then she also has made the book club cardigan, which everyone has been making, and it is starting to influence me a little bit. I don't think I usually get very influenced by what other people make, but I guess sometimes partly. But I do really want a cabled cardigan, and it looks really beautiful, so it's definitely on the list. Since last time, I have gotten a bit of knitting time done. I went to the cabin with my friend, and our little girls are somewhat the same age, so they played together, and that gave us some knitting time. And then I went to Matthias's parents for like a short week, and that also gave me some knitting time, which was really nice. So I have quite a bit to show you. I also have decorated with some little knitted pumpkins. This is a pattern from 100 Acre Wool. She's on YouTube, and I think it was a video tutorial. Very easy to make using scrap yarn. I made these 2 years ago, I think. I made 2 of them, and I put a little apple tree branches as the little sticks. And I do really want to make more. I definitely have scraps in my stash that can be used for that, or leftovers. I just haven't gotten around to it. There's so many things that I want to make and not enough time. But we have a finished object. This beautiful piece of a garment is finally done. I only need to weave in a final little end on the side here. I used the cast on strand to seam the sides and forgot to weave in this one. But this is the favo sweater. This is a pattern from Fiber Tales that I have had on my knit list for a very long time. And when I was gifted this yarn from Jenniferknitsla in LA, I swatched for this pattern and it was a perfect fit. So I used 1 strand of pure cashmere and 1 strand of nuvoletta, which is like a fuzzy yarn similar to a silk mohair, slightly thicker, and it's 100% cashmere. So this is a squishy, super soft luxury sweater. And I want to try it on to show you, or I guess you could wear it both sides, but the back panel is reverse stockinette, and then the front panel is what has the cables. Now, I hope that the color is showing up okay. It is quite dark and the sun is starting to rise. Very cozy. So soft. The sleeves, I think I blocked them slightly long, so next time I wash it, I'll make sure to not block it as long. The body, I think, is the perfect length for me. Comes below the button of my jeans, and in the back as well, it comes just below the hem. And on the sides, it's not very obvious, but it is shorter on the sides. I knit this longer than the pattern suggested. It has... So the front and the back center is longer than the brioche sides. And it's said to knit until the middle measured like so and so. And instead I knit until the side panel measured that much. I also did 6 German short rows on the side panels to make it less of a stark dip, just because I didn't want it to be very long in the front and then still right up to show like my belly on the sides. I wanted it to be a warm and cozy sweater because I live in a cold place and bare skin is not what I want for this kind of warm, cozy garment. And I'm really happy with it. I am loving the brioche stitch. I have not knit this before that I can remember, and it was very addicting. So I do think I will be knitting in brioche again. And this just felt really nice. I'm gonna just keep this on for now. Another finished object. This one I have already worn quite a bit, so it already has a little bit of pilling. I just couldn't resist wearing it when it was finished. This is the In and Out Raglin, which is a pattern recipe, if you will, from the Republic of Me, Ivana. She has a instruction on her vlog for how to create a top-down raglan based on your own measurements and the gauge of the yarn that you have available. And I went for a sort of mock turtleneck, somewhat of a straight sleeve with twisted ribbing as well as on the neckline. On the body I went for a cropped body, and I did cables or twisted stitch cables on the bottom instead of a ribbing, and I bound off with an I-cord. So the cables are really simple to make. It's just twisting stitches right and left throughout. It takes, of course, a bit longer to knit than stockinette, but I think the effect is really pretty. It does roll up a little bit on itself. The I-cord did help, but I didn't block it very aggressively. I just steamed it a little bit because the wool wash that Ivana used, because she handspun this yarn for me, the wool wash that she has used smells so good, and I didn't want to get rid of it just yet, so I got a bit of wear out of it, and then next wash I will fully soak it, and then I will block the bottom down so that it doesn't roll up on itself. So if you have some yarn that you don't know what to make with and you would like a top-down raglan, then I really do recommend checking out her pattern. It's really easy to modify. I have knit a different pattern before where I used this cabled hem, and I have some plans for a different sweater in the future that also uses this design element, so stay tuned for that maybe. We'll see. I have a lot of plans. They don't always come to life. So that is another finished object. The third garment is not for me, but for my daughter. And this is the Seaglass Mini. However, the Seaglass also comes in adult sizes, if you like the look of this. It's a 1x1 color work throughout, and I use one strand of arwetta from Filcolana, which is a sock yarn, in white, and then I used a self-striping sock yarn, which I think is a Malabrigo yarn, but it was from my friend's stash. She wasn't going to use it, so she gifted it to me without a tag. But yeah, it created this really nice effect. There is a bit of pooling on the body because of the length of the stripes and there being white in the self-striping sock yarn. The sleeves turned out better if that is what you're looking for, less pooling. I don't mind. It's a soft, fun little children's sweater, and I think she could already wear it now if I just roll up the sleeves a little bit. So really happy with this one. I think I'm not 100% sure, and I don't have my cheat sheet with me today, but this is at least 12-month-old. It might be 18 months, but yes, should fit now. And I have some other finished objects as well. These are accessories, and again, they are not for me. I have someone in the family who is expecting a child, and they wanted a balaclava, so I got on the balaclava wagon again, and I knit the baby bear balaclava. I think that's the word, the name. It's a knitting for olive pattern. I used one strand of Sunday and one strand of Tilia for this. This is like a light brown beigey color. They don't know the gender, so that's what they asked for, something neutral, which I like, and I had it in my stash, so it was perfect. And then once I was on the balaclava wagon, I cast on another one for Nellie, because she uses her balaclavas more than once every day. For every nap she wears these now. So she has a pink one and a green one in her size now, so I knit another one in brown with the neckline. This does not use silk mohair. Here I held the Knitting for Olive merino together with isager alpaca 1, I think. It's the very thin one. And I really like the fabric that it created, because I couldn't find a silk mohair at the yarn store that I liked with the brown, but I did enjoy the combination of the alpaca with the merino. This is the 1 to 2 year old size, which is the size that she uses now. I found that the neckline rolled up quite a bit on the pink one, so for this one I increased to the stitch count of the largest size for the neckline. And then I did the neckline, and then I also did an extra increase on the bottom 4 points. That's at the very end of the pattern if you knit it. So that's some modification that I did. So hopefully that will make it sit better over the shoulders and not roll up. And if it does work, then I will do that modification again in the future. This green one has not been used because I put it somewhere in one of her diaper bags or in the car, and then one of the stitches on the bind off got snagged, so it unraveled. So last night I unpicked the bind off and a couple of rows to where the yarn was damaged, and then I re-knit the bind off. So nothing very exciting. This is an alpaca yarn from Gazal, baby alpaca. Very nice and soft. And then I also have a white one that I have knit since last time, but I forgot it at the cabin, or Matthias forgot at the cabin. It doesn't matter. It's at the cabin. I'm going back there next weekend, and then she can wear that one again. But that one has gotten a lot of wear as well. It's really cute. I used a strand of, I think Sunday. Yeah, one strand of Sunday. And then the silk mohair in that one is a, it's one of those sparkly ones. It's from Lang Yarns Lame, I think is the name of the brand the type of yarn. And it's just very cute. It's very subtle. You don't really see the sparkle that much, honestly, unless you look really closely. But it's a beautiful light colored balaclava. So those are the finished objects that I've worked on since last time. I have been getting quite a lot work done on my blankets. So if you are new here, we have a Blanketalong running on this channel. It started the 1st of October and it's going to run until the 1st of March. So still plenty of time to join in. And the only thing you need to do is to work on a blanket. So it can be something that you already have started, or you can start something new and post a photo of that blanket. Doesn't have to be finished, on Instagram with the hashtag WKxKTblanketalong. I'm running this Blanketalong together with Woolly Knit, and they generously gave me the yarn for my blanket, which is a Afghan from this book that I bought on eBay a couple of years ago. And it's the Ultimate Book of Knit Afghans from the American School of Needlework, $12.93. And the blanket that I am working on is a blanket with 5 panels that you knit separately, and then you seam them together at the end and create these tassels. So since last time I have finished the center panel, and I basically have 5 cones of yarn in the iron weight. And if I manage to upload this before the end of October, if you use Blanket20 as a coupon code, you get 20% off their Afghan yarn at Woolly Knit. So I knit the center panel, which is the largest panel, until I ran out of yarn on the first cone, because that will make sure that I have enough yarn for all the panels and the tassels, because I do think the tassels do actually take quite a bit of yarn. And it does roll in on itself because it doesn't have any kind of ribbing or anything, but it will be seamed with the other pieces, and I think it's going to work out beautifully. The length of this panel is approximately the length of me, and I'm 177. I think normally a couch blanket, a big one, is 2 meters, so it's slightly shorter than that, but with the tassels I think we are more than good. It's a iron weight blanket, it's cable-y, it's squishy, and it's going to be very nice and warm and long enough for the intended use. So that took quite a lot of hours, being so many cables and so much knitting. But the second panel that I've started, which I will be making 2 of, is less than half of the stitches of this one. And it's a lot simpler motif, so that one is going really fast, and that's giving motivation for me. I have just this tiny little nugget of yarn left from the cone. I bound off at a point where I thought it looked nice to bind off in the pattern, and then I will be knitting the sides and see if I need to either remove a couple of rows or add a couple of rows to make them align well. We'll see. Yes. So that the second panel I can show you. So I started the other cone that I have. I have 5 of them and they are 400 grams each. I'm keeping this one in my Jezebel leather bag because this one is a lot smaller for now. And it's already gotten quite far, I think. It looks very small compared to the center panel. It's pretty, but more simple. So it's just braids that go in and out and moss stitch in the center, and then reverse stockinette on the outsides of the triangles. So, oops. This is moving along quite nicely, and seeing how thin it is, I can definitely add to the center panel if I decide that I want it even longer. But I think for now I will work on this one and see how it develops before deciding on the final length of the blanket. If you post on Instagram with the hashtag WKxKTblanketalong, you're eligible to win a coupon for the Woolly Knit website of £100, and my friend Thao from the Knitting Swan is also donating coupons for her website as prizes. So there's good things if you were so lucky to win, but it's all about the knitting and crafting and creating something without pressure, something cozy. Doesn't need to be finished at any time. It can be a long term, it can be scrappy, it can be something new. Just the joy of crafting. Another new whip that you have not seen is somewhat of a test knit. This is a pattern that the Crea Bea has in the works. She posted on Instagram and I just fell in love with the look of it. She posted a photo of the Staffen sweater, and she's also making a Staffen vest and cardigan, both with a round neck and a v-neck, and I really like the idea of the v-neck cardigan. So I did some swatching for it. It called for fivel, and I had some black fivel in my stash. So fivel is a 100% Norwegian wool yarn from Rauma. I love Rauma. Finol has my heart. And the fivel is a thicker yarn base. However, I found that the texture didn't really show up on the black yarn, so I decided that wasn't a good option, and I have a pattern in mind for this black yarn already, which is a simple stockinette, so I think that's what that is going to be. Then I swatched with one strand of alpaca on a cone that I bought in Paris, together with a strand of silk mohair, but the gauge for this didn't really work. It's too loose of a fabric and it's not what I want for a cardigan. This would be too draping and I think it would fall off my shoulders, so not a winner either. Then I swatched with a cone from Jameson and Smith, I think, together with a hand-dyed baby alpaca base from Zakami. But I found that, again, the stitch pattern didn't really show up enough, probably due to the combination of the heathered wool and the variegated hand-dyed silk mohair. It wasn't a good fit either for this. So I ended up purchasing some new yarn. Fivel. I really love this yarn and it's quite affordable. It's less than $5 here in Norway. So I bought this beautiful color that I have not seen before. It's brown, gray, beige mix. It calls, in different lighting it looks different, but I would definitely say it's in the brown, gray, beige family. And I think the yardage requirements for the size 4, which I'm making, was 13 balls. So I have that. And I have just briefly started the neckline of the cardigan, and I have the beautiful little stitch markers. That was a gift from my friend Odd, and yeah, her handle is Bubbles and Berries. I am currently just waiting on a little bit of feedback about one point in the pattern that was a little bit unclear, and then once she gets back to me, then this is going to be smooth sailing. I'm really enjoying the whole texture cable vibe this fall. So yes, that is going to be a great addition to my wardrobe. I really want to get more of what is it called? Dark academia kind of style. I've always enjoyed that kind of stuff because it is more of an autumnal color palette, which I gravitate towards. and I really want to find some nice pants, and then I'm envisioning pants, t-shirt, and that cardigan, and it's going to be really nice autumnal look. Yes. Next whip is something that I cast on in the car. I have it in my knitting swan basket, and I was gifted this, and I'm still an affiliate member, so if you use the code Inga, you get 10% off. And in here I have something very pink. Nelly picked the color. Matthias thought she looked really nice in her pink balaclava, so I opted to knit something for her in the same kind of very fuchsia pink. I am not very drawn to pink myself, but if it's going to be a pink, I prefer hot pink over like baby pink. And this is the Sandra Sweater Mini. I think the name of the designer is Nash Knits. I will put it below in the description box. She's a new to me designer, but I came across a photo of the Sandra Sweater Mini and the adult version, and I fell in love, so I bought both patterns, and I figured knitting the mini first is a nice swatch before knitting the adult one. And the yarn I found on sale was Tin Kid Silk Erle, which is a yarn from House of Yarn. And it's just a standard sort of silk mohair, but it has a few more meters. It's 287 meters, and it has some wool content as well. So it's 53% kid mohair, 34% silk, and 13% wool. And I held it together with phenol, which I love. I thought the colors worked well together, and Nelly ate the ball band, so I had to buy it. And I cast on in the car when we drove back home from Matthias's parents. It's like 11 hours away from here. So we drove in 2 sessions. We spent the night at the cabin just to break it up a little bit. It all went well, and I got a lot of knitting done in the car. I finished the whole body. So I cast on and cast off the body before we got back home. Last night I did the neckline, which is a very nice, cute little ribbing rollover sort of thing. And the bind off was new to me, and it's very elastic. I really like it. So now all I have left on the Sandra Mini are the sleeves, which are a big part of this pattern that makes it so cute. They have some I-cord ties at the end. There's also some scalloped edging on the body. Now this isn't blocked yet, so I can block the scallops to be more visible if I want to. Comments on the pattern. It tells you to make sure that you get your gauge as well as your row gauge accurate. I find that a little bit problematic when patterns require that, because sometimes you can get gauge but you can't get the row gauge by changing needle size, because if you get your gauge, let's say with the 4mm needles, but your row gauge is off, you can't change your needle size to accommodate for the row gauge, because then your gauge will be off. So then you would have to change how you knit to accommodate for one or the other, which can be quite difficult. So I prefer when they don't tell you how many rows, but instead work in centimeters, because that is easier to adjust. Also, with a garter knit, I find that you can block it to a lot of different row gauges. So I kind of ignored the whole check your row gauge and just went for getting my gauge right. The benefit of knitting with a woolly wool yarn like this one and a silk mohair is that it's lightweight. It doesn't weigh very much. When it comes to garter, gravity can play an effect on how it elongates over time if it is a heavier garment or if it's a slick superwash yarn. Because this is a lightweight garment and it's a toothy yarn and the silk mohair makes it even more toothy, it's not going to grow very much lengthwise with wear. So it really is about how I decide to block it. My experience with washing and blocking this kind of fabric, woolly fabric, is that it pretty much stays the way it is unless I pull on it. And the plan is that I have now knit this to fit her from 12 to 18 months. And I'm just going to lay it flat to dry so that it stays this shape. And then as she grows, because this is a boxy fit, I am just going to pull on it as I block it to make it grow, and it will fit for a longer time. That wasn't any issue with doing that with this kind of pattern, except for that it only gives you centimeters for the back panel, and then as you pick up and knit the front panel, it's all about the rows. And if you know your row gauge, like the pattern tells you to do, it's not an issue. But if you're like me and you're working with lengths and not particular row gauge, then I just had to make sure that when I folded the front down, I knit until it was hitting the back edging. But the shoulder seam is not on the top of the shoulder. I couldn't find a photo of the pattern that showed how it's supposed to look in the back, but I do think this is the right way because I made sure the neckline looked right, and then that created or that made the shoulder seam to be on the back, which I see a lot of patterns have these days. And I do think, based on how many rows the pattern told you to knit, that this is how it is supposed to look. I hope. It does really matter. It looks nice to me and it's functional, and I'm going to finish the sleeves and she's going to have a cute little, somewhat of an outer layer garment because it is going to be very nice and warm. Yes. Okay. Another new cast on that I cast on last night after we got home is another Amy slipover. I have my most worn Amy slipover with me because I wanted to measure once I cast on a knit for a little bit to see how it looks, because this one I knit in a different yarn. I knit this in Hillesvåg unspun with the silk mohair, and this one is a bit wider than the others that I've knit, and I like this one the most. So I just brought this for reference, and this is going to be a Christmas gift if I finish it in time. It's for my mom and she got to choose the yarn. This is a cone from my stash. It's the super soft cashmere in Rusty Pekin from J.C. Rennie. I bought this cone and I already have knit a no-frill sweater for me in this, holding the yarn double, and I still have a lot of yarn left, so it goes a long way. And I have bound off these two balls off this cone, plus that sweater quantity, and I have just cast on the back piece of the Amy slipover. This yarn has a lot of spinning oil, so I do think they call them greasy cones. I have managed to get the spinning oils out of my sweater after a couple of washes. The tip is to use some dish detergent to kind of dissolve the spinning oils. So once I did that, after like the third wash, then I got the smell out. So I told my mom as a fair warning, it might still smell a little bit of spinning oil when she gets it. If she gets it for Christmas, I don't know when I will finish this, but I will try to finish it in time. But yeah, she said that she didn't mind. She really liked the color, and yeah, so I'm making this for her. So right now in the works is the sweater for Nelly, the slipover for my mom, the Blanketalong, which is a long-term whip. I have some other lingering whips waiting for me, some other blankets, a cardigan, and then one of these days I'm going to start a new project. I've worked with Unit Toronto before, and they contacted me to ask if I wanted to knit from their new book. So Claudia has a Making Memories book. It's been all over Instagram. I live in Norway, so I still haven't gotten the book, but it is said to be here today or tomorrow. And they very generously sent me the book and some yarn for one of the patterns. So I will be knitting the Olympia sweater. And this is a yarn combination that Claudia chose. It's Daphne and Leona from Emilia and Philomene, which is a Canadian-based yarn. I have never knit with this before. The color is eucalyptus for the Daphne, which is a superwash merino silk blend. And it's 800 meters, so it's quite thin. And it's going to be held with a 72% mohair, 28% silk, and the color Tangram. Now this is not a color that I usually knit with, so I am excited to see if it's exactly what I've been missing in my wardrobe. And if I see that the color doesn't suit my complexion, we'll see. It might be nice. If not, it's I know someone else who really does love the kind of grays, though it would be nice to have something gray, greenish gray in my wardrobe as well, so not everything is brown and green. But yes, I will be knitting up the Olympia as soon as I get my hands on the book, and then I will share the progress with you as I go. And then the Olympia has a silk ribbon in the back, so I need to figure out what kind of silk ribbon would look good with this yarn. Yes. Now, I think that is all that I have been knitting on since last time, and I feel like I've made quite a lot of progress, but it's only 8 weeks until Christmas, which is crazy. Time is going way too fast, and I'm just trying to enjoy all the little things, and at the same time try and think a little bit ahead, so that the things that I would like to get done gets done in a busy life. And I hope that you are making all the things that make you happy. And leave a comment below about what you're working on or what you'd like to be working on. And I'm on Instagram if you want to reach out. I'm Knitting Traditions on there as well. And I hope to see you in not too long. I'll be going to the knitting festival in Breda, but I'm flying to Amsterdam at the end of November. So I do think that I will be checking in with you before then. And yeah, happy knitting. Bye.